welcome back. So today's video is about Ignite Me, which is the third book in the Shadow Me series, and the first one on Soft that isn't too bad. It's getting better. So the book starts out with Juliet waking up in the HQ, where Warner was hiding her, being that he had to return to the base. When she wakes up, the first thing she does is asking how the war went, and reluctantly he tells her that it's over, and obviously she starts panicking and asking why, despite already knowing the answer. And he tells her that it's because they're all dead. And hearing this, she's obviously going through a lot of emotions, hearing that not only did they lose the war, but everyone she loved and considered family and friends are now dead. And he tries to comfort her, but seeing that she seems to have more use of being alone at the time, he leaves her alone. Now, starting to process that all her loved ones are gone, she's set on going after Anderson and getting revenge. So now, being fully prepared to walk right over to Anderson and kill him when Warner gets back, he informs her that his father has left and is back at the capital, and has taken the girls with him. But the reminder that they are still alive gives her some hope that the rest of her friends could be alive as well, that they must have had some kind of escape plan. He tries to talk her out of it, but then realizes that there is really no idea trying to talk her out of it with how determined she is to go one way or another. So then he offers to sneak her back to the Omega Point to see for herself, when he has to go there in order to start rebuilding everything after all the damages the war left behind. And now, seeing that no matter what, she's fully determined to kill his father and bring down the re-establishment once and for all, he smiles and offers to help. And obviously this didn't make much sense to her why he would offer to help with everything that he had done. And this is when it's revealed that Warner never actually intended to use her as a weapon or to torture anyone, but he actually wanted to study her so that maybe he could find a way to help his mother. Who has the opposite issue of Juliet, where instead of causing others pain, she's in constant pain herself, and he thought that studying and understanding Juliet might help him find a way to help her. But also, he kind of wanted to use her powers to feel the pain that she can cause, to be able to understand the pain his mother constantly is in. It also turns out that the room with the little boy was all a simulation, and that everything she saw and heard in there was actually just an imagination. Which we do learn in Destroy Me, but this is when Juliet learns about it, and this is also something she has been mad at Warner for. He tells her how the guy he had killed was actually because he was abusing to his family, and making her demonstrate her powers by hurting someone when she first got here was because all his men are monsters who needed to fear her from the very beginning. And learning all of this about him makes it a lot harder for her to, dislike him. Getting out of Omega Point wasn't actually a hassle at all. He simply just walked right out. He had told the guards that he was allowed out of his room, and by having paid a lot of attention to his surroundings throughout his time there, on top of having been somewhat conscious while they first took him there, he was able to find his way out with ease. So when they get back to Omega Point, the place had been demolished, but not long after they get there, Kenji showed more than ready to kill Warner. And both him and Juliet are more than happy to see each other again, so while they're hugging it out, Warner manages to hide. But Kenji, blaming Warner for all the deaths and too angry to listen right now, he starts walking around looking for him. And that's when Warner shows up next to Juliet, having been able to copy Kenji's powers without touching him, and is now secretly talking to Juliet, telling her that they need to leave, but she doesn't want to leave Kenji and wants to know who else is still alive. But she does accept his offer to team up, but saying that they have a better chance if they can team up, so he gives her a device she can activate and he can find her with, and gives her 4 hours to find out more and contact him herself, and longer than that, and he will assume that she's in need of help and come get her. So while invisibly walking back together, Kenji and Juliet both catch each other up on everything that had happened, and how Warner saved and had her here, and also tell him that he's in love with her, and Kenji obviously has questions regarding what possibly could have possessed him to save her, and that answer obviously baffles him. But he also points out to her that this whole time she hasn't asked a single question about Adam, and instead he's defending Warner. Now, having gotten back at James and Adam's old house, she sees everyone there still alive and is obviously very happy about it. And Kenji starts, for some reason, reintroducing her to everyone except for Castiel, who's basically in shock, and then starts telling everyone about what had happened to her. But when he's done and everyone are starting to question why Warner would have saved, and none of them believe that Warner isn't actually the monster that everyone thinks that he is, and while everyone is pretty much shouting, trying to get their points heard, Adam drags her into his room and asks her what the hell she's talking about. They end up having a huge fight where Adam ends up saying a lot of hurtful things and showing exactly that they have both been in their own heads this whole time. But Adam had thought that they both just wanted a peaceful life together, and Juliet had thought that they both always wanted to fight back. They hear a commotion outside and walk out, seeing Warren standing there with everyone pointing a gun at him. And when Juliet steps in front of them trying to defend him, he tells her that even though he's appreciated, he doesn't need her to defend him. To which she rolls her eyes because he's standing there, hands in his pockets, with 8 guns pointed at him. But then he borrows Castiel's powers and sends all the guns to the roof and tells them that he's not interested in killing anyone there and he's simply there to pick up Juliet, which has Adam going insane, even though not 5 minutes ago he was there insulting her left and right. But instead of Warner roasting Adam and Kenji laughing his ass off at it, which was gold, something really cute about this scene is that Warner and James meet for the first time, even though neither of them know that they're brothers yet, but they still have a cute moment where James is worried about Juliet's safety and doesn't want Warner to take her away. He basically ends up crouching down and explaining to him that he's not going to harm her, but that they seem to have an arrangement, which has everyone shocked and forces Juliet to explain her plan and how they're gonna need Warner's help in order to fight their establishment. And with everyone shocked and angry at once, Juliet ends up giving them her speech about fighting back and taking down the establishment. So when she's done and unsure about what reaction she'll get from everyone, one by one they start accepting, all but Adam, who basically decides to make a fool out of himself and going on about how apparently everything should be about him, and so he should just leave Sonia and Sarah with Anderson, which isn't anything new, being that he was more than fine with leaving Juliet with him to die, and he should just do nothing about this because Adam's feelings will get hurt if they were Warner, and because he's not willing to keep fighting. No one else should either. You might only have fought with them because it was clever and don't actually care about making a change, but the rest of them joined the Omega Point pretty much because they want to make some changes. And like you, who were only there for like months, the rest of them have put in years of their lives into this and for the chance of at a better future, so yeah, obviously they will be on board if it means that they can finally see a good result for what is at this point their life's work. And this is just more of the same reasons why I never liked him. And so Kenji drags out to talk and Juliet and Warner step into James's room to talk as well. And when they step out, they're met with Adam. I cannot stop how annoying he is here, and she definitely should have kicked his ass. Like, who do you think you are? Calling her childish and stupid, and to do it in front of everyone who by now have grown tired by their constant fighting. Like, dude, these poor people are going through enough. They don't want to have to watch y'all fighting on top of it. And then to also go on and being mad about her spending time with Kenji. Like, bitch, how dare you? He's a friend. Actually both of yours, friend, and he's actually pleasant to hang around with. And even when he doesn't entirely agree with her decisions, honestly, he's probably agreed with very few of them so far, but he's sure as hell never belittled her like that in public nor in private. And not that she knows this, but when she was taken, he was more than happy letting them torture and kill her, while Kenji was the one who wanted to go after her. He was the one who cared about her and to get her back alive. And now Adam has the audacity to stand down here and yell at her about why she apparently doesn't care about him and how she does not prioritize his feelings while people's lives are at stake. How stupid does someone have to be? And don't even get me started on the fact that this guy for real still thinks he's her boyfriend. No, she broke up with you a month. So, well, the second Warner opens his mouth to tell Juliet that he has to go and asks her if she wants to go with him. Adam starts going off on him. He then charges at Warner and saying fuck gets knocked on his ass. Then like a fool charges at him again, and this time he gets tackled and dragged out by Kenji, who are truly dirty. And after Warner leaves, Kenji comes back and takes her up to the roof where they sit and have a chat. He then asks her what is really going on between them, and she explains to him how she's changed and how Adam doesn't seem to like who she is now, and instead is clinging on to the idea of who she used to be before, which was a quiet and fragile little girl who would always need his help, and that's simply not who she is anymore or would ever want to be again. She then also tells him that she likes Warner for how he treats her, that he wants to be stronger and accomplish as much as possible, and is also so sure about how strong and smart she is that even when she doesn't accomplish something, it's so expected that he's not even the slightest bit surprised. So next morning, while having breakfast, Tanda starts on small talk and asks them how they actually go about the days that are apparently just boring because all that they do is trying not to die. So when they ask her whether or not she has any ideas, she tells them that Warner is gonna be there in an hour, which is when Adam basically goes crazy on her ass and takes this as far as to say that he would have preferred her dead, and Juliet, for obvious reasons, is hurt and shocked into silence. Because obviously you don't expect to hear that from someone who until yesterday claimed to love you. And poor Kenji tries to manage the situation and telling Adam to calm down and that he's not being reasonable in any way, shape or form, but the crackhead won't have it and basically tell her to be gone by the time he gets back, and then storms out. By putting on her coat shakingly, she finds the tracker Warner had given to her, and she starts pressing the button over and over again because it is calming her, while Castiel and the rest of them are trying to convince her not to leave. And in the midst of that, Warner storms in and trying to see what's wrong with her. And just imagine how much he'd probably panic with her having pressed the button over and over again this whole time. But the problem now is that she doesn't want to leave without her friends or a way to reach them. So for her benefit, he offers to hide them safely on base, which they strongly declined because they obviously don't trust him. So she asks him to give them whatever they need in order to be able to trust him enough and agree, which he does. He asks what they want, and Kenji then asks him for medical treatment, to not have anyone monitoring them, real food, clothes, regular access to showers, and to be able to remain armed, which to their surprise he immediately agrees to and tells them that he'll be back tomorrow to pick them up, and then leaves with Juliet. Later on, back in Warner's room, she starts thinking back to her relationship with Adam and realizes that they were never really in love because if they had been, he wouldn't have preferred her dead. And then she also thinks back to how Warner, when he had all the reasons to be mad at her, and when he was sure that she was in love with someone else, he still did everything he could to save her. Now fast forward to in the middle of the night, Juliet wakes up and walks into Aaron's office, where she finds him with medicine for his scars on his back that he had gotten from his father right now, whipping him every year on his birthday. But him not really wanting her to see them, he starts begging her to go back, but she doesn't want him to think that he's repulsed by his scars. And when they start go back and forth a bit, he tells her that he can't do this because he's in love with her, and she can't say it back because she's not sure if she feels the same, and it's time to figure it out. And having her so close to him, like while he loves her and she's not sure if she does, is painful to him. And so at the end, she leaves. And the next morning, Bonnie brings the gang back to base, and when they get there, she and Kenji start having a little bit of a heart-to-heart, where Kenji tells her about how everything is kind of getting too much for him. And Julia tells him how she feels like Adam not telling Bonnie that they're brothers is unfair to him, and also that even though he and Adam might not become real brothers, he and James might be able to. So while they're all talking how they will go about doing this, Bonnie tells them that his dad is on a ship, and if this is gonna work, they need him to come to them. And Julia suggests that they can get the soldiers on their side, and after that the people to join forces with them, and together they can take over. So now they all are starting their training, and Kenji's training with Juliet, who's trying to project her powers to move a dumbbell, and instead basically ends up bringing down the walls and roofs down on their heads. But luckily Warner can still manage to control it so that everyone there don't die. And after this is when we get to see Warner slowly starting to warm up to them, when he's loudly laughing at one of Kenji's strokes, which is nice. So while she's training with Kenji, they start having a chat, and it turns out that he had been going back and visiting James and Adam from time to time, and had also told him that Juliet is missing him, and she's still in love with him, in order to convince them to come and live with the rest of them. And now Juliet is obviously mad at Kenji, who had lied to Adam about her, and she's also worried that he and Warner might probably kill each other. So back in her room, she kind of starts having a crisis where she buries her head under a bunch of pillows, and when Warner comes in, she ends up telling him about the situation, and also reassuring him that she isn't still in love with Adam, and that she likes him. But Warner doesn't really care much about Adam coming there, and he's totally fine with it, and is leaving it to her and Kenji to figure out how to fix the situation with Adam, thinking she still loves him. So now into the next morning, when James and Adam gets there, and James seems to overly excited about everything there, and after his greetings with Juliet, he goes into the locker room with Brendan. And now with James out of the room, Adam starts out by trying to apologize for what he has said to her, but Julia wants to just get it out that Kenji had lied and get that whole mess taken care of right away. But it turns out that Kenji had the sense to tell him that before they got there, to avoid any future problems. And so when they get to the subject of Warner and how he doesn't actually care that he's here, he starts yelling at her that she's insane, and somehow twists everything that happened so far into meaning that she must have been cheating on him the whole time they had been together. Wow. How do you go from apologizing for all the heinous things he had said to her, and 5 seconds later start going off on her again? Basically saying she didn't mind putting him in his place this time. So now fast forward later, and they're still sitting together when Ollie is presenting her design for Juliet's new suit, and Warner walks in and joins them, where he and James start having a fun little conversation. And later on, when they're all training, Warner is teaching her how to fight, which goes pretty well before throwing him across the room. And later he's telling her that he's gonna visit his mother on her birthday, and also telling her the story about his ring and how it's the only gift he's ever gotten, that his mom had given to him on his 6th birthday when they were hiding from his dad. And being that Juliet and Kenji had wanted to train outside, he agrees on dropping them off somewhere off the grid and safe on his way to his mom's house, and then pick them up after his visit. After he drops them off at the unregulated place they were gonna train at the next day, he was then supposed to be back and pick them up after 2 hours, but then he doesn't show up. And as time keeps passing and see no sign of Warner, they start getting worried, especially Juliet, and so she ends up telling Kenji that she knows where he had gone, and that he's about 2 streets from Sycamore Street. and doesn't need to go after him, and thinks Kenji knows the way there. And when they get there, she asks him to wait outside, but she goes in to check on him, and so finding him in his mom's room, pretty much about break apart, being that he's obviously dead. And so she goes over and tries to comfort him. And then later on, when she and Kenji are heading back inside, right before they're about to get to everyone else, Kenji tells her that after it had taken so long to get back, he had gone inside to check on them and had seen what had happened, and tells him about his mom and that she had died. And so later she goes and gives Adam an ultimatum that either he goes and tells Warner that they're brothers or she will, which she obviously doesn't take too well, and they end up getting into a fight over it. And the fight ends up going a bit too far, where it comes about a breakup again, and Adam now can control his powers and can touch her without anything happening to him, and she can even feel that her powers are gone while he's holding her. And he starts going on about how they could have been fine if she just had been willing to wait and just being annoying again, but it gets even worse when Kenji tries to break them apart, and he takes Kenji's hand and puts it in Juliet after he lets go of her, wanting to cause him that kind of pain. But Kenji lets go of her hand quickly and very rightfully punches Adam. But it also turns out that he apparently hadn't felt a thing, which leads Juliet to realize that she must have learned to control her powers as well, meaning that she can touch anyone without hurting them, which also means that she can finally decide to be with Warner without worrying about her feelings for him having something to do with him being able to touch her without dying. And while talking to Warner, telling him this, they also get around talking about Delaliu, who turns out is Warner's grandfather from his mother's side, though despite that they're not close as family, but he obviously does trust him. And the next morning, Juliet gets her new suit, which she loves. And later, they start the first step in their plan by putting on a show of power and convincing the soldiers that they can together win against their establishment, and all be free of them, which then wins the soldiers over on their side. That evening, when they're all sitting around each other, happy that their plan is working, and joking around with each other, joking about Warner and Anderson's names. Alan tells them that Anderson's first name is Paris, and just then Warner walks in and asks him how he knows that, being that almost absolutely no one knows his name. And after pinning him against the wall, demanding answers, and so Juliet ends up blurting out that they're brothers, which Adam confirms. And so now it is looking like they're on their way to a new and better start. Warner ends up admitting to Juliet that he doesn't hate Adam anymore, and that he now understands where all his anger and hatred in life comes from. And they both end up having a short conversation that seems to be promising, even though we don't know what they're saying. But later he tells Juliet that he and Ad are planning on spending some time together and getting to know each other as well. Now fast forward again to when the battle started, and the plan is for James to stay there waiting for them. And while everyone else is fighting Anderson's soldiers, Juliet and Kenji sneak into the ship and kill him there. And in order for no one else to know about that part of the plan, they both take a back way out while being invisible. And when they get to the ship, she uses her powers to push all the ghosts into the water. And for some reason, they go into the ship separately. But being that they're both invisible and Juliet goes in a few seconds later, they can't find each other there again without risking to get caught. And so she decides to start looking around, and after some time, her invisibility disappears, meaning that she and Kenji have gotten way too far from each other. So now the guards coming after her starts running through the place, jumping through the floors with all the guards coming after her. When she pretty much gets cornered, she decides to try out Alia's theory and starts running at all of them, shooting at her. But none of the bullets are touch her, but rather just flies off her body. She ends up just standing still and letting them all shoot her, and when they're done, she uses her powers to knock them all out. She then goes back to jumping through the floors and kicking in the doors to no avail, now starting to lose hope, thinking that maybe he's not there and they're on the wrong ship. But just then, she gets to a new door and decides to try the handle instead, and turns out it's unlocked. In there, she sees Sarah and Sonia, and they end up telling her that Kenji had been looking for her and that he's 2 doors over, but to be careful because Anderson has apparently brought the weapon with him, whom she's very pleased with. When she goes in there, she can hear Kenji warning her right before something slams her into the wall and ground multiple times. And with some struggling, she manages to see Anderson and some blonde kid with powers who is using soundwave to throw them around, almost killing them. But she does manage to get him and break his neck, but now having fallen down after having used all her energy to getting to the kid, and comes to standing over her, shooting her over and over again. But not dying apparently gives her some hope, and she manages to overpower him by breaking his ankles, and then she proceeds to shoot him twice, once for Warner and once for Adam, and we're apparently just forgetting about James. She then takes Kenji to Sarah and Sonia, who heal him but still unconscious. They all help him out of there. They get into a tank to drive over to everyone else, and using a microphone, she informs everyone that Anderson is dead and that the war is over and that she's going to take over now. She then goes up on a rooftop to be able to find her friends, and after some time, all but Warner start coming forward from different directions, even Kenji, while being pretty much carried by Sarah and Sonia. But then Warner shows up behind her, and while hugging her, tells her how everyone is gonna come after them now, to which she responds that they can try. And that is the end of Ignite, which kind of gives me hope for a series because it wasn't that bad. It starts near there.